welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing. Each episode takes a deep dive into the franchise space and explores how the biggest and best brands handle national branding, franchise development, employee recruitment, and localized marketing on a daily basis. This podcast is brought to you by NetSertive, a localized digital marketing partner for franchise networks. NetSertive talks shop with franchise executives to discuss what's working, what's not, and answers the question, what else can you be doing to excel at the art of franchise marketing?
Hello, and welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Erin Martin, and this episode's brought to you by NetSertive. Today, our guest is Heather Anderson, the VP of Marketing for Streamline Brands. Heather, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I always love to kick it off on just giving our audience a little bit more background on you and then your current role at Streamline Brands as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in marketing in the franchise space for over a decade and a half, and really spent the bulk of that in the kids enrichment space. So that's really where my passion lies. I've been with Streamline Brands for a little over a year now, and we operate over 200 swim schools across the U.S. under 9 different brands, 11 brand combinations, which includes Safe Splash. That's our flagship franchise brand. So I think really with all of that, it makes us the largest network of swim schools in the U.S., and everybody is connected by a shared curriculum, shared commitment to really building safer, more confident swimmers at every level. I think what sets us apart in the industry is that we serve all ages and all abilities. So from babies learning to float to adults that are learning to swim, adaptive swimmers, and then up through those that are more competitive, triathletes, even Olympians. So it really serves everybody in the country in terms of wherever you are in your swim journey.
That's awesome. And I know that you guys were acquired by Youth Enrichment Brands a few years ago too. So curious, you starting a year ago, some of that happening, like how are you digging in and also thinking about the portfolio of brands when it comes to marketing and that approach? Because there are a lot of, I think, marketers that are either in your shoes for the first time. You started at one brand and either got acquired, or you all of a sudden become a platform brand and are trying to build a portfolio. So there's more marketers that are in your shoes today than ever before that have a bunch of brands, and it sounds like different audiences at play. So I'm just curious from the marketing perspective, and when you first jumped into the role, like how do you think about and process and approach some of those things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this is really the second time I've been a part of that kind of platform experience, or early on during that transition. And it's been really wonderful, honestly. I think I've got such a great network of peers that are going through the same challenges on a regular basis. And so you have those other shoulders to lean on, to ask questions, and really a great almost mentorship network. And then I think having the ability to also lean on YEB for more shared services, where we're really building a world-class CRM, scalable media infrastructure, that framework that really allows you to tap into bigger picture conversations and do things at scale and run much more quickly while still being able to focus on the regular day-to-day of what support franchisees need has been super helpful.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned it, but I know you did a big research project to inform a lot of the initiatives and things that you guys have going on in the year. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, there's this quote that I always really like, which was Ray Kroc said, if you work just for money, you'll never make it. But if you love what you're doing and you always put the customer first, success will be yours. And I've never felt that passionate about a hamburger, maybe when I was 20 at 2 a.m. But I think the essence of that message really stands, especially in the kids enrichment space, right? We're in this business because we want to do great things for kids. If you do great things for kids, that success will follow. And I think that's the best mindset to start from. And then once the mindset is right, then you really need to figure out what's the mindset of the customer. Because I think we've found ourselves now, just as marketers, in this entirely new landscape where The customer has changed, the expectations of brands have changed, the way that businesses are expected to interact has really changed. And customers today are not the same ones from a decade ago, even a few years ago. I think a lot of us as marketers probably feel like we've lived 3 lifetimes since the pandemic. And so there's all these consumers out there that have very different expectations, where I think these giants like Amazon and Netflix and Target have set this new benchmark where customers are always online, they're always on, they demand instant access, rapid resolution, super engaged interactions. And I think because of that, they expect the same from every brand that they interact with, whether they're big or small. So I think as I stepped into this role at Streamline, we were at a really good place in our growth where it made sense for us to take a step back and ask, are we still reaching customers in a way that really cuts through the noise? Or are we just repeating the same things that we've always said and expecting them to land a different way? I think we always believed swimming is a life skill. We know that hasn't changed, but wanted to better understand what do customers believe when they're looking for that. And so we had partnered with a third-party research firm. I'll give them a shout out, Nucleus Marketing, because I love them. I've actually worked with them for over a decade, did a ton of research projects with them at the Little Gym as well. And we did a really deep dive. We did focus groups with swim families across different markets, different stages of the journey, and then also surveyed hundreds of current customers, former customers, prospective customers, so we could really validate what we heard in that research project or in that qualitative focus group portion of the study. And I think what we learned is a few things. One, yes, safety matters, and that really is the impetus for them reaching out, but we had to find, I think, the right way to connect. And so depending on the stage of the parent and where they were, there was this interesting emergence of different phrases that we kept hearing. One of them was the word comfort. We kept hearing about comfort in the water, a willingness to get in, to get their face wet, before they can even become self-reliant and learn those self-rescue skills. And so I think that was one really good tangible insight for us, because it helped us start to separate the need states and create this new tiered communication approach so we could highlight the different stages of learning. And then I think the other thing we found was parents were often seeking in swim instruction because it was sparked by being around the water, but they talked a lot about the anxiety that they felt, how it really limited their ability to something as grand as going on a vacation, but something as simple as just what types of activities are they doing on the weekend? Can they go to their sister's house that has a lake in the backyard and sit and relax while the kids are playing? And so that sense of how do we reduce the parents' anxiety from a messaging component and really make them feel comfortable and educated about that, really, I think, opened up also a whole nother world from a communications perspective of, we have all these, how do we allow them to lean into the possibilities for family adventures, to lean into all these water-related activities and provide them with confidence, with this focus on they're not just buying lessons, but they're buying the ability to say yes, to live a life without fear. And so I think that's the real win from a parent's perspective.
Yeah, that's so good. And that hits home, I think, like dead on for me, and reaching that emotional message, because I think of some of those things all the time with my kids. They are not the strongest swimmers. And so like the idea of Great Wolf Lodge, I'm like, no, like we are never going to Great Wolf Lodge. I will not relax. Like there's water everywhere. It's a hotel. This sounds like a stress case, not like an enjoyable experience for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love how you translate that into messaging. I'm also curious, did the research pick up on how to either go about marketing and messaging to differentiate your brands as well? Because it seems like it's like such a crowded space. You have a lot of competition. And so then where do you dig out your niche, or how do you guys think about what you do with the different brands?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So I think the other big component that we leaned into and heard was there's a lot of, I think, just confusion in the space in terms of expectation setting. Parents essentially had no idea how long it would take for their child to reach their goal for swim instruction. We talked to them about how long did they think it would take for their child to be water safe, and the answer was anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 years. So it was a pretty wide gap. And so I think for us that really reinforced the opportunity to set better expectations, set the stage for us to become really the source of education for parents. And we really wanted to launch something bold for parents that would help them feel more confident in and better set those expectations of what they're getting into. And so we launched a program called the Safer Swimmer Promise, which is essentially our commitment that kids over the age of 4 can master 10 essential water safety skills, self-rescue skills, with a year of consistent lessons. And if they're not able to pass our Safer Swimmer Promise test within that year, then we're going to give them up to 2 months of additional lessons free of charge to help them get to the place where they can pass. So we really wanted to put something in place that holds us accountable to what matters most, both to us and both to families.
That's great. And that makes me think about my earlier years in marketing where I started out as a product marketer. And so that's taking that extra step of basically then packaging and putting everything into very simple expectation setting, like you said, of not just selling what it is, but the value and outcome in very clean packages and a program that then that, actual service delivery and experience matches what you're trying to do from the selling and marketing perspective, which I love. Like, I think that oftentimes is where the customer experience can break down, is like, you can't just be out there driving leads, like trying to promote yourself, but then have it not completely and like utterly come from the exact same place as the actual product or service. So it's like combining both of those into the correct packages, which I love to hear that example.
Yeah, and it gives us something really easy for team members to be able to talk about, to be able to put in front of parents, to walk them through from an education standpoint. And so I think in terms of really aligning with parent expectations, helping them from an education standpoint to set that kind of benchmark of here's where your child can be in a year, and then they can continue to progress with us, especially if they find that they have a real passion for swimming beyond being able to self-rescue, but they want to get into the competitive sect. There's all these other avenues then for them to explore at that stage.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then did that research apply to your whole portfolio of brands? And how did you then take that into each brand specific kind of playbook and marketing playbook?
Yeah, it did. I think what's interesting about Streamline Brands as a whole is about a quarter of our system is company owned. So we have direct control over more than 50 locations. So that gives us this really strong foundation to work from, where we're able to operate and implement initiatives at scale. And it's also a great testing ground, a great way for the marketing team to really understand the big picture and the day-to-day needs of the business. So it allowed us to really roll this out across all of those locations. And then franchisees were really excited about having this program that allowed them and their team members to speak much more succinctly to parent needs. Regardless of what brand they're with, our program all utilizes the same curriculum, the same instructor certification. And so we're able to share that across all of the different markets that we have a presence.
Yeah, gotcha. So then what other initiatives do you have for this year, either implementing the research or what's your guys' focus for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I think our focus for the remainder of the year, there's some things I can't talk about quite yet that we're excited about, but I think it's more this combination or marriage of online and offline tactics. I think we're operating in this time of meaningful economic uncertainty. And I started my franchise career during the Great Recession. So in a sense, I feel like I have always operated in a time of meaningful economic uncertainty. But I think what's different now is that the way that customers continue to fundamentally evolve is at this rapid pace, and we're all feeling the ripple effects from these seismic shifts. And so I think we're really digging into what are the changes that are taking place in digital first. I think digital media has become increasingly fragmented, where we used to be able to focus on a few key platforms. We're now managing dozens of channels. Each has their own rules, their own formats, their own expectations. So it's really harder than ever to be everywhere you need to be at the right time with the right message. And so I think as we're getting a handle on that chaos, enter AI, which has been...
Throw that bomb into the mix.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's been a curveball, a blessing, and a curse. So I think on the one hand, it's completely transformed the way teams work, right? We're all, as marketers, way more efficient, more productive, able to move faster than ever before. I think it's helping us to scale creative, spot patterns in data, and eliminate a lot of that day-to-day repetitive grind. But on the other hand, it's completely reshaping how consumers behave. And so we're seeing that a lot in the digital space, in the search space. Search behavior is completely changing. And so I think as consumers are going from short keyword-based queries like swim lessons near me, they're now going towards this much more full-blown natural language where it's things like, where can I take my toddler for swim lessons that focus on safety and small class sizes? So I think that transition has been a really big deal for us because it means we really need to rethink our traditional SEO tactics, any of the performance shortcuts we relied on in the past, and really rethink how we're meeting the customer where they are digitally.
Yeah, and that totally squares with a lot of the trends that I've seen, not only with NetSertive's own customer base, but other marketers I've talked to in terms of seeing really specific, like long keywords like that perform really well and being the shift to be efficient and smart with media spend, all the way to, I think it was Google's new AI mode. It's just getting into that next level of analyzing, okay, someone said this, but what do they really mean? And using AI to scan for deeper context. Other people that asked this ended up really wanting this. And so all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I can't just be bidding on this longer tail keyword anymore. I need to be thinking about SEO, the digital infrastructure, like all these pieces that the LLMs are pulling from, or Google and the traditional platforms, to be able to answer that question in a contextual way.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to be buttoned up. You can't just do this one tactic that will win and bid the most on it anymore. You got to have your foundations on point.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And if you think back to it, any time in our history as marketers, whenever you try to game and scam the system is ultimately, it might work for a short time period, but that's not a long-term growth strategy. Yeah. As long as you're doing things the right way, you're focused on consumer first and you're focused on building trust. And I think especially in franchising, that local trust still matters. And those that focus on that first and foremost of building those connections and doing things because you want to build that relationship in your local community, I think that ends up having and paying dividends both from a grassroots perspective and from an online perspective, because you're really focused on, I think personal connection is always going to be the most powerful differentiator that we have.
Yeah, 100%. I've always been, this is definitely the same theme of other marketers that are like, everything was paid media and dumping investment into digital in the COVID time. And now we've swung full pendulum back to like grassroots marketing is where it's at. That's where it's impactful. And the reality is it's both, obviously. Like you never want to do 100% of one or the other, but you get that trust and maybe even just initial brand awareness and consideration from friends and family and local community members, with digital being another validator as well. Yeah. So obviously they need to work together.
Yeah, exactly. I think from a grassroots perspective, for all franchises that I've talked to and other marketers that I've talked to, it's that grassroots marketing muscle really started atrophying since COVID. I think everybody was very active with that in the pre-COVID world, and so many pulled back from those in-person events, from partnerships, from community-based outreach, and that it's really just now that a lot of businesses are starting to rebuild those connections. And I think with everything happening in the digital space, it's making it clear how much more important it is to have that local level connection and relationship so that when a customer does go online and they are searching for something related to your business, one, that you have that catalyst out there in the marketplace to drive them to create that search, but also that there's relevance, and when they see your business, they're that much more likely to click because they've now had that personal connection.
Yeah. It's like we all have muscle atrophy from
Yes.
COVID. And now
In
it's
so
like
many ways. Yeah.
So what does it look like for you guys? What does the local marketing playbook look for you guys right now? What's that combo of grassroots plus digital that's working for you guys?
Yeah, I think that's the large majority of it, is finding that right marriage. I think what's special about our business and really all franchise businesses is that many families don't know it's part of this larger network. I think when our locations are able to establish themselves almost as that local mom and pop, as that fixture in the community, and we're lucky that we get to have that kind of relationship with families, that we get to see them once a week. We get to spend dedicated small group time with them and really watch the children grow. I think it creates more of that mom and pop feel that really brings so much to the relationship. And so we really are leaning in on how do we get out into the communities more? How do we bring the communities into our facilities more? And then how do we echo that back through everything from a digital perspective? And then I think going back to this concept of just doing right by the customer and focusing on them first, how do we just make it the easiest that it can be for them to do business with us, to make it a really seamless experience for them to reach out, to call us, to text us, wherever it makes the most sense for them and how it's easiest for them to reach out. We want to be able to be there and my husband always has this phrase where he's, don't be an anchor, be a sail. But like in any situation. And I think in that it's very true also, like, how can we be a sail? How can we make things easier, more fun, so they can get on and move on with their day to day and not be a drag?
Yeah. And the easier part, I think, can't be understated in that it's like a small but so impactful thing on the lead funnel.
Yes.
It's if I jump on my phone and I'm like trying to book something real quick, but there's one hiccup, like everything could be for naught because you just lost a lead.
Oh, I'm out.
Like,
I bail. Yeah.
Someone frustrated. Like that customer experience of just the ease of booking when you actually have someone ready can be like success or not of a whole campaign. So it's like that is so critical. And as marketers, it's easy, I think, for us we're close to everything. So we see all these different optimizations and let's play with AI. What can we do here? We have to be visionaries. But at the end of the day, is the actual customer journey so seamless and easy that you won't lose a lead in that funnel?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as I have two young girls that are both in the program, so I get to experience it as a customer
nice.
as well.
Uh-huh.
And when we go to class once a week, I am not a part of the Streamline Brands team. I am fully just Harper and Peyton's mom, and we're here for our swim lessons. And if I need to reschedule, I want to know that process is working. And if I feel a hiccup or something that resonates with something I heard from the customer research, then I take it back to the leadership team the next day and we talk about it. And I think a lot of the families in our company are able to have that same experience and take their children to any of our company-owned locations. And so what's lovely about that is we have so many people that are experiencing the product firsthand and have that kind of dual perspective that they can bring back to work with them the next day.
Yeah, that's great. And I know we're coming up on a little bit of time here, but I definitely want to ask about AI since we've touched on that a little bit. And I'm asking all marketers, how are you just thinking about it approaching? I've heard the gamut of not doing anything. I know we need to. So curious where your head's at.
Yeah, I think we're definitely doing something. I think the big difference in where AI is moving is Google wants to keep you on Google. So we're seeing a lot of the results changing. I think at its most basic level, all of the LLMs are pulling their information from Google and Bing. So if you continue to optimize for those two engines, you're going to get referral traffic from ChatGPT, from Gemini, from Grok. But I think there then are more advanced shifts in how we focus on optimization, like targeting those longer tail keywords, really being more specific about reflecting user intent. I think at a basic level, just don't block the LLM crawlers from your site. I think that certainly will help you, but then being a lot more thoughtful about how do we become a authority in the space in general. And I think that goes back to that's something you can't game or fake. If you're providing the right content from a customer perspective, really leaning into your FAQs and how you're providing that question and answer back to customers that they're looking for, and just being useful and being trusted. I think that not only benefits your customer interactions, but that's the kind of content that will benefit from an AI perspective as well.
Yeah, I love that. And it ties back to what you said earlier about doing grassroots marketing well, but then making sure that gets translated online. So it's like, there's things, for example, where it's, okay, you just went to a farmer's market or you just went to a race and had a booth. If you're doing something in the community, digitize that. Take pictures, put it on your social media profile. Make sure that you establish a really strong local digital presence that has that authority of community engagement. Like, you're going to get people then commenting in different things or interacting or reviewing and giving, the best testimonials and all of that. And the more that you have that digital cred, that's what all either LLMs or Google or whoever is also looking for to see, is this a credible business? Should I recommend them? That's what it's looking for. And so I always think back to, okay, not only do the right things in the real world, but translate it to digital so that the bots can see what's happening in the real world almost.
Yeah, no, totally. I 100% agree.
Awesome. Last question for you is if there's anything we didn't touch on that you wish we would have.
Not that I can think of right now.
Awesome. I do have to say, one of my best friends who lives across the street, her kids went through swim labs and absolutely loved it. They are the best swimmers now. I did not get my kids into it, and now I'm the one who's like scared of Great Wolf Lodge. So there we go.
I was like, you should go. It's funny, my brother actually works for Great Wolf Lodge, so you should go. I will give a plug for him. I love swim labs is really one of our coolest concepts. So it's beyond the in-ground pools. They are tanks with a full technology package. And so we do regular learn to swim, but we have a lot of competitive swimmers, triathletes, Olympians that come to our swim labs facilities because it has the mirror on the bottom of the tank, and then it has a full technology package on top. So it's scanning the swim strokes, and you can compare your swim strokes to a library of hundreds of professional swimmers so that you can really start to perfect your form and increase your speed. So it's definitely one of the more unique brands in our portfolio.
Oh, wow. That's very cool. And thanks for sharing that because, I would never have known. I was like, oh, they've got great kids swim programs, and look at that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather, so much for coming on. It was so great to hear about everything you guys have cooking, and excited for the summer and some more safe swimming. And thanks to everyone who listened into another episode.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Franchise Marketing. This show is brought to you by NetCertive. We help franchise brands and multi-location businesses run localized digital marketing at scale. To learn more, visit netcertive.com.